If you have been on the internet long enough, I know by now you have seen all the conversation and all the hype around journaling. Everybody seems to be a journaler now, and they are encouraging you to start journaling if you don't already do it. If you are a person who journals frequently, you are encouraged to keep doing it even more. As someone who has been journaling for over 10 years, highly encouraged that you keep journaling. The point of this episode is not necessarily to encourage you to start journaling. The episode is for people who have been journaling and you have gotten stuck at a place where you no longer know what else to journal about or how else to journal. Or if you are new to journaling, maybe you're asking yourself, how should I journal? What should I write in my journal if I get one? This episode is going to help you figure out a few ways to journal, a few ways to experiment with journaling. Try them out, see what you like, what you don't like about the journaling process, and let me know what works for you or what doesn't work for you in the comment section of this episode. So let's get into it. I have about 9 tips on how to journal, and you can find the full list on my Substack, which is Mental Wealth by Jennifer Kyalo. The first journaling tip that I have for people who are considering starting journaling or for people who are already journaling and they want something new is journaling for mental clarity. Sometimes you find yourself stuck in a loop. You are overthinking. You have so many thoughts buzzing in your head and you're like, I feel overwhelmed. I'm not sure what I am doing or what I should be thinking or where I should be going with my thought process. So the easiest way to journal is to journal for mental clarity. Doing a brain dump is basically the easiest and quickest and painless method of gaining mental clarity, and I encourage everyone to try this at least once or several times in a day if you want to. The way to do it is to take a piece of paper and a pen, sit down in a quiet place if possible, and write everything that is on your mind. Write it down and let it sit on the paper for a moment. Just look at it from a distance. It gives you a little bit of objectivity because now you are able to see everything that has been buzzing around in your mind, and then you can start deciding what needs to be done or where what needs to go, So it's a very easy way to get mental clarity, to stop feeling overwhelmed. Just try it, experiment with it, and don't knock it till you try it. The second way that you can journal is journaling to shift your focus. Most of us get trapped in overthinking, and most of us get trapped in rumination about specific thoughts and specific ideas. For you to get out of that rumination, you need to shift your focus from that particular thing you are ruminating about. And one way that you can shift your focus from the thing you're ruminating about is to actually journal about different stuff. So in this particular technique, you are going to stop thinking about what you have been ruminating on and ask yourself different questions or engage in different material that takes you away from the thing that you have been ruminating on. Let's say, for example, the thought that has been dominating your mind is, should I buy a new laptop? That is a thought that can keep you at night because you're thinking about all the specs, you're thinking about the money, you're thinking about where you're going to get the laptop and everything. So that can take up a lot of mental space. And you can find yourself in a situation where it's impossible for you to think about other things because you keep coming back to this one question, should I buy a laptop? Should I buy a laptop? Should I buy a laptop? If you want to break that cycle, break that rumination, or give your brain some time to think about other things, then you can use journaling in this particular way. You can ask yourself questions that have nothing to do with the thing that you're ruminating about. You can think about ways that you can make other people happy and write them down, or you can think about something in your house that you have bought recently that you have not used, or you bought a long time ago and you've not used. It's about actually sitting down and writing about these things so that your mind does not have room to think about this other thing you've been ruminating about. That is the whole point. And that's why it matters that you write down. That can help you break the cycle of rumination. When you look at the newsletter that is linked in the description, you're going to see some other prompts that you can use to shift your focus from what you're thinking about, what you've been ruminating on, to something entirely different and to give yourself a break. Third idea on journaling is journaling to reflect. Is the thing. Our lives are passing us every single day. If I ask you right now to remember what you did 2 weeks ago, you might not remember it. If I ask you right now to remember what you did this morning, you might not remember it, right? But then if you journal about the things that are going on in your life while they are happening, then it will be easier for you to go back and remember the things that you want to remember. You will remember the important moments. They will not slip past you, And so journaling to reflect about your life, journaling to reflect about the days that you've spent, journaling to reflect about the things you are grateful for, journaling to reflect on what is draining your energy, what is giving you energy, what do you need to minimize, what do you need to maximize, what do you need to eliminate in your life, what do you need to change in your life, what went well today. Those are questions that you can ask yourself. Those are things you can reflect upon in your life. One particular question I like asking myself is, what went well today and how can I replicate it tomorrow? This gives me a moment to just sit in silence and think about the things that really went well today. And it's very easy to forget what went well today, especially when you are feeling overwhelmed by the pressures of life. There are good things in every single day. There's going to be one particular thing that's going to be good. It requires you to be objective. It requires you to be open-minded. It requires you to think a little bit harder than just saying today was not a good day or today was a bad day, whatever. It's very easy to dismiss the good moments that happened sometime during the day. So I highly encourage you to think about that. Think about what went well today. How can I replicate it tomorrow? And then tomorrow replicate it and see if you can have many more good days than bad days, right? As you will see on the newsletter, there are some prompts I've put in there for you to check out. And the beauty is that you can expand on these in any direction that you want to go, just for you to be able to understand what exactly you want to do with your life. So that is another way to journal. Journaling tip number 4, how to journal, is journaling to audit your habits and your lifestyle. So it's very possible for us to live on autopilot, and that is something that most of us have experienced, where your habits just become bad habits, take over. You do not know why you do the things that you do, and you don't know how to stop so that you can live a life that is more intentional. So if you don't do an audit about your life, if you do not do an audit about your habits, you are going to find yourself repeating mistakes and patterns that are harmful to you. So it's always a good idea to audit your life, to audit your lifestyle, and to audit your habits. A good way to do this audit is to get a blank page and write down the habit that you're trying to audit. How often do you do it? Does it get you closer to the life that you want? Or does it take you further and further away from the life that you actually want? Do you want to keep doing this habit, or do you want to discard it? Are there any barriers or resistance to continue doing this habit or to stopping this habit? Are there any adjustments you need to make for this habit to be better or to end completely? So this is just a simple way of auditing your life. And I think all of us need to try this at least once every quarter. You don't want to wake up 5 years from now and be like, how did I end up in this life? How did I continue harming myself or repeating patterns that were harmful to me for such a long time without stopping? Try to audit your life. And journaling to audit your life is a wonderful, wonderful skill to develop. It's a thing to experiment with, and try it out. Tell me what you think about it, especially with the habits that you've been trying to break or the habits that you've been trying to create and it's been quite difficult. Number 5 way that I recommend for journaling is journaling in the face of tragedy. All of us experience difficulties in life. Nobody gets to walk scot-free, and it's very easy to let that tragedy pile up in your head and the thoughts around it make it difficult for you to see past the tragedy itself. A good way to do this is to ask yourself a bunch of questions. For example, what happened objectively speaking? Like if somebody was narrating the event as an observer, as an outsider, they're looking from the outside and they're telling the story of what actually happened, what would they say? I ask myself, what exactly do I understand about this tragedy? What exactly do I understand about what happened? What does it say about me? What does it say about what does it say about the other people involved? What does it say about the world? How do I feel about this tragedy itself? How do I feel about myself regarding this tragedy? What meaning am I assigning it? What does it mean for me moving forward? How does this become a part of my life? Those are just questions to help me deal with whatever tragedy I am dealing with. And I hope you can experiment with this and ask yourself if there are ways for you to navigate some of the difficulties that you experience. There's a parable, something called the parable of the farmer, that I think you should check out. And in that parable, this farmer has a son, and the son gets into an accident, and there's a lot of things that happen regarding that son getting into an accident. Several things happen over and over again related to that particular incident of the farmer's son. You should check that out because it's going to change your perspective when it comes to tragedy. The other way of journaling that I highly recommend is journaling when you're anxious. When you get anxious, I need you to remember 3 things. There are items that are within your circle of control. There are items that are within your circle of influence, and there are items that are within your circle of concern. And you need to know where exactly you fall and which items fall in those 3 circles so that you can deal with the anxiety more effectively. If you hold on to things that are completely outside of the circle of your control, you are going to find yourself in a very difficult position because you can't influence them. You can't change them sometimes, and there's nothing that can be done about them because they are completely outside of your control. The thing that I tell everyone when it comes to dealing with this anxiety and stuff outside of your circle of control is to chant the Serenity Prayer. That will remind you constantly about what exactly can be done, what you can do, what you can't do, and how to accept what you cannot control or what you cannot change. So think about it that way, and check out those 2 things, the circle of control and the Serenity Prayer. Very, very important. Number 7 way of journaling is journaling when you want to make a decision. Sometimes you have to make decisions. Okay, not sometimes. Honestly, we all have to make decisions every single day. And sometimes some decisions are heavier than others. Some decisions have more baggage and more stuff related to them. It's not just a simple decision of yes or no, or move forward or not move forward. Sometimes it's a little bit more complicated. So the way that I use journaling for helping me make decisions is using the classic pros and cons list and making a decision after that. So how to go about this is to basically figure out what are your options, what are the pros and the cons of each of those options, and what decision can you live with in the face of those pros and cons. The moment you identify those 3 items, you are in a better position to make an informed decision than when everything is just jumbled up in your head. So consider doing a basic pros and cons list as part of journaling. Number 8, journaling for your future. I journal for my future all the time because I am always thinking about who I am and where I am going and what I will be doing when I get there. A good way to think about this is to journal about maybe 5 years from now. What does your life look like? What does your career look like? What will have changed or what will not have changed? Thinking about death, I think thinking about death is very, very important. Many people don't think about death enough. And I think that's why we are stuck in a lot of things that don't make us happy because we think we have all the time in the world. Yet in reality, we are here for a very short period of time and then we are gone. And the moment death is front and center in your mind, then decision making will be a little bit easier, in my opinion, because you know that you don't have all the time in the world. So think about when you will think about your death frequently. Meditate upon it. And I know that's probably a bit morbid for some people or a bit scary for some people, but it being scary does not mean that it will not happen. It will happen to all of us at some point. And it's important for us to think about what kind of lives we want to live, knowing that one day we are not going to be here. If you want me to talk about death at any point in a podcast episode, let me know. I'm happy to touch on that subject. It's something that I think about a lot. And actually, speaking of death, I have this was not even intentional, but I have a book that I put together. It's a book of quotes, 366 quotes on life and death that I think all of us should read every single day just to meditate upon the shortness of life and the beauty of the shortness of life and why it's a good thing that we are here for a moment. Yeah, so check that out on Amazon or any of the links below. You're going to see the book on meditating upon our death. Moving on, last but definitely not least, is the last way that I journal, and I would encourage you to consider journaling, and that is having a to-do list as part of journaling. So I keep a to-do list. First of all, I keep a couple of notebooks at any given time. I have a journal that I write my to-do list every single day. I have another journal that I write my daily reflections at the end of the day. I have another journal, just looking at them over here. I have another journal that I use for my learnings, the things I'm learning. I write them down. And then there's another journal I use for my therapy. Yes, I am in therapy. And yeah, I think those are about 4. Oh, I have another small journal that I write. It's not a journal really, but it's a notebook that I write quotes that I love. Yeah, so I have that as well. I am sure I have more journals. I have a journal on my phone that I write on some stuff that I want to keep on my phone. Yeah, there's that. I encourage you to have several journals if you want to. And the to-do list is what I was saying, that is the last tip. Use one of your notebooks as a to-do list. And a to-do list can be your journal as well, because you're keeping a record of all the things you're doing or all the things you got done on a particular day. And if today you ask me what I did on January 1st of 2025, I would just go to the page that says January 1st, 2025, and I would read for you the things I did on that day. I don't always write everything. I don't think it's necessary for me to write everything, but I do write a bunch of things that I think are important for me to remember. Yeah, and I keep it every day. I go through it at the end of the day just to make sure that I've done the things I intended to do. I update it at the end of the day before I go to bed so that I know what I am doing tomorrow morning when I wake up. There's nothing I hate more than waking up and then I am standing in front of my desk and I am asking myself, what am I supposed to do today? And then now the anxiety kicks in. That is not something that I like experiencing. It pisses me off actually. So what I do is I write my journal, my to-do list at night before I go to bed, and I list everything that I want to get done. It doesn't mean that I will get everything done. It just means that those are things that I aspire to get done. If they get done, well and good. If they don't, that stuff gets moved over to tomorrow or the day after that or next week or next month, but it's on the journal and I will get to it when I get to it. So I encourage you to try that out. What I do, a question that I ask myself so that I don't get too judgmental with myself or guilt trip myself for not completing everything on my journal, on my to-do list is what does done for the day look like today, or what does success look like for today. So as I've said, I might have 10, 15 items on my to-do list, but I know very well I'm not going to get through all those things in one day. So what I do is I highlight the main things I think will signify success for today, and I sit down at my desk and get them done. And if I get them done, then it's a good day. If I don't get them done, then tomorrow is another day. If I am alive to see it, and I pray that I am alive to see it. So yeah, that's how I use my to-do list to keep my days ordered. And these are some of the ways in which I use journaling in general to keep my life in order. I hope that you can experiment with them. If you do experiment with them, please let me know in the comments what you liked, what you didn't like, what helped, what didn't help, what other ways you have been journaling. If you have any new tips on journaling that you think people should try out, please tell us in the comments. As I've said, there's a link to the newsletter that highlights all these tips that I mentioned. I wrote them in 2 parts. So part 1 and part 2 has different tips. Check that out and let me know if it's helpful. Share with a friend or someone, or don't. It's totally fine. No pressure. Yeah, I think that's everything I have for you regarding journaling. If you have any questions, you know what to do. And I guess I will see you next time. Take care of yourself. Take care of your mental health. And yeah, bye.